So when I was a kid, my mom got me a PSP for Christmas, and I only had one game on that PSP, and that was BattleFront. And I guess like we couldn't figure out how to connect the PSP to the internet, or I just wasn't allowed to play games online yet, but I had to play that game offline the entire time I had it. I have like very vivid memories of playing Space Battle in particular, and I don't remember anything else about the game aside from Space Battles and running around as my Pookie Ookie Wookie Bear General Grievous. And despite the fact that I was only 2 years old when Battlefront 2 came out, that game single-handedly made me a Star Wars fan. Now, like 19 years into the future, identifying myself as a Star Wars fan is kinda embarrassing. Star Wars fans. Some of the only people on Earth who can get upset at having more content and then also get upset at not having more content. New shows get trashed, new movies get trashed, and new games, well, new games don't happen here, but when they do, they get trashed. Unless that game is Jedi Survivor. People love that game. People love the whole game series, and good for them. Yeah, some good games. I haven't played them though, personally. But before Jedi Survivor, there was another game that was for a while the definitive Star Wars gaming experience. EA's Battlefront 2. A modern take on a classic game. A game that is simultaneously one of the greatest Star Wars games that have ever been made, and also one of the most controversial games in recent history. From day one, BF2 was rattled in controversy. Most notably was the terrible pay-to-win nature of the game. The game launched with 14 heroes, or important characters in the Star Wars mythos, the majority of which were locked behind paywalls. Meaning that if you wanted to play as Emperor Palpatine, or Princess Leia, or Darth Vader, you were immediately put on the grind. A grind that would take you at minimum 40 hours to unlock just one of these characters. At launch, it would have taken players 4,528 hours, or a little over $2,000 to unlock all of the playable characters and their star cards. People hated this game for a good long while, and for a myriad of different reasons. However, through updates and reworks and getting rid of the stupid loot box system, Battlefront 2 bounced back. And because of YouTubers like Zanny, Battlefront 2 started to really hit its stride during 2021. And it is also around this time where the developers cut live support for the game. But is Battlefront 2 worth coming back to 7 years after its initial launch? I personally would say yes. But I need to make a video, so I'm gonna drag this out for a little while longer. It just randomly decided to start thunderstorming over here, like at my house. So if you hear any like noises in the background, that's what that is. Battlefront 2's campaign is alright. It's just alright. The story takes place over the course of a couple of decades, starting from the original series all the way to the sequels. The story of this game begins during the Return of the Jedi and goes all the way up until the rise of the First Order, so there is a lot of ground to cover in this campaign. And honestly, they didn't do that good of a job stitching together a cohesive story. The campaign feels more like a collection of stories being told to some third party. And it's because of this that all the new characters, Iden, Del, and Hosk, all feel hollow. You don't get time to just stop and get to know them outside of Del has a moral compass and Iden is down bad for him. Also, I forgot to put it in like the script for this like video. But the like main antagonist, quote unquote, is Iden's dad, and he is so forgettable that I completely forgot to put him in the script of this video. Like, the only reason you're hearing me rant about him right now is because I needed to add a little more time to the, runtime of this video. I mean, he's just like generic bad guy. He doesn't have any motivations outside of I follow orders and everybody should do the same. Yeah, he shows up like twice and then dies. I think playing on the side of the Empire is a pretty cool idea. It's not something you usually get to see in Star Wars media. I mean, Star Wars is usually comically good guy versus comically bad guy, and it's nice to see that there was an attempt to make a complex character who isn't just one or the other. However, since the story isn't really cohesive, you don't get to see Del or Iden struggle with unlearning the ways of the Empire. Del turns on Hask because he doesn't want to kill innocent people, and Iden follows him, and that's basically the end of their conflict. But I kinda have a problem with this, because if you are the leader of a squad, then you presumably had to work your way up to your position through years of training. In fact, Iden even says as much in the game.
I was actually curious about what happens afterwards when the war's over.
Honestly, I haven't really thought about it. A life of Imperial training isn't worth much in the civilian sector.
So I find it hard to believe that Iden would turn her back on her Empire and her father to chase after Del, especially since it's one order that she doesn't like. And yeah, she was tasked with destroying her home planet, but even after going rogue, she never really struggles with that internal conflict. Del's turn to the light side is marginally better. He does have a pep talk with Luke Skywalker, despite him being an Imperial officer.
You're telling me the man who destroyed the Jedi Order was secretly one of them?
No. I'm telling you that as a boy on Coruscant, you were frightened of the wrong thing.
But I think that that's also, like, somewhat of a weak motivation, you know? In the end, it doesn't seem like Del or Iden wanted to turn to the light side at all. It seems more like they just didn't agree with the specific orders that they were given at the time, and because of this they were exiled, and since they didn't have anywhere else to go, they chose to go to the Resistance. So it feels more like they stumbled into being the good guy instead of it being an intentional choice that the two had made. I do, however, really like the fact that the campaign is formatted like a Star Wars movie, like it has the swipe transitions and everything. At times it feels like you're playing an interactive movie instead of just playing a video game, and that's helped by the beautiful graphics and the smooth gameplay. I remember when this game first came out and people were swooning over the graphics, and for good reason too. And almost a decade later, the graphics still look amazing. The gunplay is great, but at times the gameplay can be a little clunky. There's a specific mission that I had to keep starting over because I was getting shot through a wall, and at times the AI is comically bad. Like, there have been times where I've been standing in front of an enemy and they were too busy tweaking than to actually attempt to kill me. Overall, this campaign is alright. The new characters fell flat in a lot of places, but all of the missions felt unique. The environment and the objectives are honestly enough to carry the underwhelming characters in this game. Each mission was distinct and unique, and I could have honestly told you what happens in most of them before coming back and replaying this game for this video, just because they stuck with me for that long. The multiplayer is pretty good sometimes, depending on what mode you're trying to play. You see, the thing about BattleFront 2 is the fact that it's a very old game. Most games who are coming up on a decade old don't get many new players, and that's mostly true for Battlefront as well. But unlike most games, Battlefront 2's lifecycle hasn't been a straight line. Instead, it's been a constant cycle of ups and downs. Before they cut live support for the game in 2021, it had just received a massive boost in players, including myself. This is because of the fact that it was free to play with the PlayStation Plus monthly games. Just recently, it received another spike because of the underwhelming release of Battlefront the Classic Collection. So depending on what game mode you're playing and when you're playing it, unless you're a high caliber player, you're most likely going to get into a lobby and get mollywopped immediately. The biggest culprit of this specific issue is heroes versus villains. So basically, if you're not the ninja of Battlefront 2, you're gonna get your shit rocked. Or you're gonna have to fight the entire enemy team while your team dicks around somewhere on the other side of the map.
Help! Help me!
One of the other major problems with the multiplayer is the fact that most of the lobbies are pretty dead now. However, BF2 does have a co-op mode, so that kind of alleviates some of the pressure. This mode basically allows you and 3 other friends to fight in a lobby just against bots. And yeah, sometimes the AI in this game isn't great, but don't underestimate them. I've lost my fair share of co-op games. The game compensates for their lack of good AI by just throwing so many at you, absolutely smothering you on both offense and defense. It might be a little cheap since you're not playing against actual humans, but I found it's the best way to get into lobbies where you can play, and where you can play as the hero specifically outside of heroes versus villains. Even before the live service for this game was cut, I spent most of my time in the co-op mode. I just personally think that it's the best way to have the most fun in this game. Over the years, a lot has been said about Battlefront 2. Some of it was negative, a lot of it was positive, and the majority of it was true and fair. Despite the fact that the game is no longer being worked on by developers, there is still a thriving community that still plays this game. The majority of this community being on PC, where it's easier to mod the game and continue to give it the updates that it never got to see in its life cycle. Adding characters like Ahsoka Tano, Mace Windu, Cad Bane, Rex, Savage, Ventress, and others. This game should be studied in a lab in some 70 years, and it's not a perfect game by any measure. Of course it has its problems, but it is a game that will live in the hearts of thousands for years to come. The story of Battlefront 2 is the story of a game that changed its reputation. A game that was so bad that actual legislation was passed against it. Now it's a great game with a great multiplayer and an alright story. A game that apparently I've stuck 139 hours into, and I will be sticking more because I kind of want to get the platinum. In conclusion, Battlefront 2 is a great game. It's a great game, and I would suggest that you should play it. It's usually on sale. It's usually like $5 or so. I think you should go for it. It's a really good game, and I really enjoy playing it. Peak the new mic quality. Yeah, I'm recording this on a Blue Snowball now. I usually recorded my videos on my headphones, but like now I have, well, technically this Blue Snowball I had before the headphones. This was also a Christmas gift. I get a lot of shit for Christmas, okay? But going forward, this will be the microphone that I use in my videos, mainly because, you know, my other one sounded like dog ass, and this one sounds not like that, so yeah, I truly do hope that you guys enjoyed the video though, and I will catch you all in the next one.